Looking at my most anticipated releases for August, I actually have, I think, the fewest most anticipated books that I've had for any month this year. It's the fewest books I've had, but 3 of my most anticipated books of the entire year are on this list. I'm not saying that's a positive or a negative, but maybe I'll actually read some of them. We're starting out on August the 4th with International Relations by Zach Hammett. This is a new to me author, and usually I wouldn't be interested in books that are about movies and celebrity and the spotlight, but this one has fake dating elements, marriage of convenience, and a little bit of a political angle that are just really selling it to me. Max has never had time for a relationship. Working in the high-stakes world of international diplomacy, the best he can manage is squeezing in one-night stands with himbos between his ongoing efforts to win a promotion. But when he tries to multitask by hooking up with a visiting dignitary at a black tie dinner, it blows up spectacularly in his face, and Max is advised that his personal life is not helping his career ambitions. In this line of work, appearances matter, and Max is losing ground to his longtime rival, happily married family man, Quentin. Max decides to beat Quentin at his own game by recruiting a fake boyfriend, Leo, from an actor's agency. But some visa complications force Max and Leo to make their relationship official by getting married. The stakes are raised higher than Max ever intended. There's only one thing that could make all of this even more complicated: if Max and Leo's feelings for each other started becoming real. Also on the 4th, and also a Achillean romance, we have Find My Way Down to You by Julian Winters. This is a YA retelling of, I think, Orpheus and Eurydice, but maybe in a little bit more of a loosey-goosey type of way. I think the cover for this one is stunning, and I've put it on my Our Fantasy bingo board already for The Afterlife square. So I'm really hoping this one works out. Julian Winters is a black male author, and I don't feel like I get enough of those onto my TBR, so I'm really excited. It'll also be the first time that I've read a black male author writing any kind of Greek mythology retelling, and you know I love a Greek mythology retelling, so it should be a winner. The only thing I'm a little bit apprehensive about is that Carrie character, purely because I'm having Blood of Hercules flashbacks, but that's a me issue. 18-year-old August is trying to navigate life after the sudden death of his boyfriend left him devastated, aimless, and feeling guilty. Years after the tragic accident, August mistakenly stumbles into a world beyond his own, the underworld. Unlike his own grey existence, the underworld is a lavish, extravagant place full of mystery and a flurry of charismatic gods, all curious about August's arrival in their world. Realising right away the opportunity in front of him, August goes in search of his lost love, guided by Carrie, the smouldering, broody farrier of souls. But the more time August spends down below, the more his intentions begin to blur. Is he visiting this realm to reunite with his soulmate? Or is he dangerously, inexplicably, intoxicatingly drawn to Carrie? With his own world in pieces and a dangerously seductive realm promising him a new existence at a heavy cost, August must choose a life with grief or a love that might destroy him. Also out on the 4th, we have the 10th book in the Blue Ridge Library Mystery Series. This one is Death on the Books by Victoria Gilbert. I really love this long-running series. I really appreciate that we have a love interest who isn't a cop, he's not a detective, a journalist. He is a ballet dancer and really nothing to do with the investigative process. We did, in either the last book or the book before that, have a really significant time jump, and I personally struggled to kind of reorientate myself in Amy's world. Now, hopefully, I'm a bit more aware of what I'm going into, and I'm hoping that this one will be a success for me. When a stranger falls over dead at the Taylorsford Public Library, clutching a crumpled piece of paper inscribed only with the words hen and sapphire, Library Director Amy Muir must once again investigate. She soon finds that the man is the personal assistant to Warren Sanderson, an art collector and dealer who just so happens to be visiting Kirk Kendrick, the godfather of Amy's twins. When the autopsy reveals that the library patron was poisoned, suspicion falls on those who knew him, mainly Sanderson, his granddaughter Heather, and Kurt. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Amy digs into the contentious relationship between Kurt and the Sandersons. But as it turns out, suspects abound, and when Amy's best friend's boyfriend is implicated, the case becomes even more complicated. Amy's research ties the dead man's note to a lost treasure of the Romanov Empire. Then another person falls victim. With the bodies piling up, Amy knows better than anyone that killers often keep killing until they're caught, and she'll stop at nothing to get to the bottom of this tangled mystery. Goodreads is a little bit confused about this next book, whether it's coming out on the 4th or the 6th, but either way, I'm excited to read it. This is Mostly Human Resources by Viall. This is doing a lot in terms of genre blending. We have cozy fantasy mixed with romance and horror, and it has that sort of the bureaucracy, the day-to-day management of supernatural, paranormal, fantastical elements that reminds me something of the Rivers of London series or of Caitlin Rosakis' latest books, the Startup Hell and Grimoire Grammar Parent Teacher Association, the Incandescent, that deal with the paperwork of magical worlds. So this one definitely appeals to me. Working in human resources was not what Alexis had in mind when she joined Entity, the company who categorise and manage the monsters and cryptids of the world. But after her dad was killed as a warden in the Appalachian Mountains, she was filled with the noble idea of carrying on his legacy, from behind the safety of a desk. But when one of her new wardens, Elliot, goes missing, her chances of promotion go missing too. Determined to find him safe and sound, she marches off into the mountains to find him herself. Because Elliot had been talking about sightings of a highly dangerous and never recorded monster, the Hollow Walker, and she's promised herself that no warden will ever die on her watch. Meanwhile, Nick, Director of Research and Cataloguing, is not one to ignore the words never recorded. With Alexis, his work nemesis, leading the charge into the mountains, he's not going to let her have all the fun. If he can be the youngest Entity employee to discover a new monster, his name will go down in the annals of cryptozoology, and if it means spending some extra time with Alexis, then he's not one to argue. But Alexis and Nick are about to discover why the Appalachian Mountains are the last place you want to find yourself after dark. And don't you just love that cover? We are jumping through the month to the 18th, and the first of the last 3 books and my 3 most anticipated books of the year. So I'm going to be really busy at the end of August. The first one is The Salt King by Natasha Pulley. I've only recently gotten into reading Natasha Pulley, but every single book I've read of hers has been not only a 5-star book, but also fascinating. She always has a really interesting angle. She's always tackling something that I find really intriguing, even if I know nothing about it. And The Salt King sounds like that's going to be absolutely no different. A novel about belief, religion, and the power of myths that blends the gripping end-of-the-world storytelling of The Passage with Natasha Pulley's biting wit and queer romance. Jesuit priest Evelyn Brocken was born into a mining family in Herod-Water, a small, isolated salt town in England. At 16, after a mining disaster killed his family, he fled. When a fellow priest is miraculously healed, only to then be turned to salt after a visit to Herod-Water, Evelyn is sent to investigate. When he arrives, the town's doctor, Jericho, tells him that the priest is not the only one experiencing strange cures, and may not be the only one in danger from a substance in the mine that the locals call salt light. As Evelyn and Jericho team up to protect the Herod-Water from salt light, strange happenings occur at mines around the world. At an archaeological dig on the Dead Sea, electrical devices froth salt. While at a huge saltworks in Poland, communication is lost, and rumours circulate of total annihilation. As salt light devastates cities around the world, Evelyn must decide what to believe, and whether his faith is strong enough to withstand an apocalypse. On the 25th, we have the sequel to Janice Hallett's book, The Appeal. This one is The Silent Appeal. Again, Hallett is someone I only recently got into, but I have been devouring her backlist. The Appeal was her debut book, so I'm excited and interested to see how this sequel is going to play out, having had multiple books in the interim and seeing how her writing has developed. Her most recent release, The Killer Question, was my favourite of her books that I've read, so I'm hoping that's a good sign for me liking the way her writing is developing. Hallett writes mysteries where she uses kind of found footage to document the story. We get snippets from text message chains, emails, very occasional just transcript, but it's always told to us through these documents rather than actual narration. Welcome back to Lower Lockwood. The Fairway players return with Sarah Jane and Kevin MacDonald as committee co-chairs. This year they have chosen to stage Agatha Christie's The Hollow, but auditions aren't their only problem. Sarah Jane's sister, Nikki Rose, is suddenly back in town under mysterious circumstances, having sold her home in Barbados, left her business providing entertainment on cruise ships, and moved back into their mother Carol's house. As always, they're short on men, and new player Fran Elroy Jones enlists a young married couple and the husband's cousin to join. But no one wants to play the part of the hated Gerda, leaving Kevin and Sarah Jane with no option but to reach out to an old member they know would be happy to perform in any role. As with any production, tensions run high, and our intrepid lawyers, Femi and Charlotte, are tasked with uncovering exactly what happened on the opening night of The Hollow, and whether the correct person has taken the blame. And then on the 25th, we have the last book for this video, and my most anticipated book of the entire year. This is Daggerbound by T. Kingfisher, and it is the sequel to her previously standalone book within her Clock Tower Boys, Saint of Steel universe, Swordheart. I've recently been rereading the Saint of Steel quartet that she wrote while trying to figure out what would happen after Swordheart. And ever since I read Swordheart, I have been desperate for a sequel to that book. So I am incredibly excited to see what Kingfisher is putting out here. Swordheart is probably one of my top 5, top 3 books of all time, and I am both apprehensive and incredibly excited to get my hands on my pre-order copy of Daggerbound. Learned Edmund, a disillusioned scholar, is transporting yet another precious relic from one stuffy temple to a different stuffy temple, another great adventure for the ages. But when Edmund is set upon by bandits, in desperation he breaks the cardinal rule and grabs for the relic, an ancient sword. To his surprise, instead of unsheathing a rusty ancient weapon, an alarmingly handsome man appears, wielding daggers of blue steel and cutting the thieves down. This man is the Dervish, an immortal warrior who's been trapped for centuries in a sword of enchanted steel, and is angry as hell about it. He hates the curse that put him there, and he wants to hate Edmund just as much as he has hated every wielder before him. But the damned scholar is just so sweet and clever and kind, and while the dervish may be able to protect Edmund from bandits, cultists, dragons and strange inhuman diplomats, he may find it much harder to protect his own heart. So there you have my 7 most anticipated books for August, along with 3 of my most anticipated books for the year, including my most anticipated book. So let me know what you think of the books on this list, and if your most anticipated book for August, either new releases or something you're trying to get off your backlist, isn't here, then let me know what that is. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that I'm going to see you in the next video. Goodbye.